The concept that we're going to discuss today is standard list controller. Alright, if you remember first session we talked about 4 types of controllers, right? First visual 4 session in fact. We talked about 4 types of controllers: standard, standard list, custom and extension. Standard controller, standard list, custom controller and extension controller, right? 1 2 3 4. Now today we are going to start talking about the second type of controller, which is a standard list controller. Okay, and a standard list controller, as the name suggests, it's a list of records that you can display on the page. So what happens with the standard controller is you can display only one record, okay, on a page. For a standard list controller, we can have a complete list of records on the page, right? So it's slightly different from a standard controller, very much similar to a standard controller, not completely different. There is just a little difference between a standard controller and a standard list controller, and the difference is that standard controller is used for single record. Okay, so you can display or connect that page to one single record basically, and you have to always supply an ID. If you remember, we always need to give the ID in the URL, right? Because it's about a single record, we always need to specify the ID that this is the record that we are going to we are talking about. Please show the details of this record on the page. That is what we say. For a standard list controller, it's not the case. Here you display list of records, that's number one, and you don't need to give an ID because it's a list of records. You cannot supply the ID of multiple records. So that's how it is. Okay, so let's have a quick look here. How do we create this page? /v7. So we make it a standard controller page, call it account. Alright, so for a standard list controller, first thing that you'll have to define is the standard controller, the way we define it for any standard controller page. Along with that standard controller, you have to define one more thing, which is called a record set var. Okay, record set var, as you can see, it's a variable for the set of records. Record set var. Okay, so there's a variable which you define for the list of records. List of records from which object? From the account object. Got this? So this is what it is. We just have to go and write it, and then we can just go and do our coding. But record set var, we'll have to give a variable name here, which can be anything, ACTS, whatever you want to put the name here. Okay, it can be A, B, C, D, whatever. So this is a variable. Okay, so now ACTS is a variable which holds all the records of account object. That's what it means. Okay, next thing that I need in a standard list controller page is a table, because now we are talking about displaying multiple records, right? So what do we need? We need a table. So we will put it like this. Put a page block, and then there is another component which is called an apex page block table. Okay. So apex page block table and there are two required attributes of the page block table component. So when we are talking about a table component, there are two required attributes. What are these two required attributes? One is value. So what data you want to display in the table? The data that I want to display is accounts, the variables that comes from here. Okay, and one more attribute called var. Okay, var is something, is a variable for this. Instead of this long statement here, instead of this, you can define a small variable here, var. Okay, so two required attributes of a page block table component, value and var. So value is done, var is done, apex column value a dot name type industry phone fax. See, so let's have a quick look again at the code, and then I'll show you what we are actually able to see on this page. We have created a page standard controller we need. Okay, I defined account as standard controller. Record set var, which is one more attribute, is something which we need to define. You can give it any name, whatever you want. Then create a page block, and inside the page block create a page block table component. Okay, so inside the table component there are columns. Inside the table component there are different columns. So we have created 5 different columns inside this page block table. Alright, and two required attributes on the table component, value and var, and one required attribute on the column where you define what value you want to display. So I want a dot name. A is what? A is list of records. So this column will contain the names. Second column will contain the type. Now have a look at what end result we are getting here. Alright, just give me 1 second. Have a look into the code. I'll just be back. 1 second. Hello. Yeah.
Sir, what is AXO record set?
It's a variable that we have defined for the list of records from account. So you can give it any name. Okay. So because you want to display a list of records, you have to define some variable to represent that list of records, right? For single record, what we used to define account.name, right? But account.name is for one single record. Now, how will computer understand that whether I'm talking about a single record or list of records? So for that list of records, you will have to define a variable. You give it any name. Got that? So that's a variable which holds all the account names. Okay, fine with everyone? Okay. Now just look at the page what we have created. How does it look? Pretty simple. There's a table, there are columns. First column has name, second has type, third has industry, then phone, then fax. So this is how list of record needs to be displayed, and it's so simple. Got it? The problem with this is, problem with the standard list controller is that it displays all the records of that object. Okay, so because we have not put any criteria, we have just said that I want to see list of accounts. Okay, so this will display all the accounts. If there is one record, or if there are 100 records, all the records will be displayed on this page. Okay, on the standard list controller. So that is a challenge with this. You don't have to do much here. You just need to write a few lines of code and you get to display the list of records. But the challenge is that you do not have an option of filtering the data the way you want, what all data you need. Let's say you just want the accounts from a particular city or a particular industry. That option is not available here. Okay, that is available with the third type of controller, custom controller, which we will discuss later. Okay. Ravali has a question. Ravali, can you explain that question, what exactly that is? She's offline. Actually offline. Okay. So let's do the same example for opportunity as well. Okay. And so that you guys understand this standard list controller a little better. So let's repeat the same thing with the opportunity object. Okay.
I have one question, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
You have defined the VAR in the table. So, if we can we directly use that?
No. That is an attribute of the table component which is required. So you have to give a value, and then you can you have to give a value and a variable, and variable is what you can use inside that. Got it? So this is the concept. So for the value you have to define a variable and you will have to use that inside the table. Okay, this time we are going to do it for opportunity. Before that, let me just have a quick look on this. So we've got quite a few opportunities. That's fine. Let me put a title here. I call it list of opportunities, and I say fix page block table. So how many of you were able to finish that assignment, the last session that we were doing, that something on opportunity? How many of you were able to do that, complete it without an error and stuff? Who was not able to do it? Name. Okay, so this is how we are using it. We have the value, we have the variable. All right, so value comes from the record set var. Okay, and this record set var is a variable defined for the list of records from this object. That is what you use as a value for the table, and then you use the var object. Sorry, var attribute on the page block table component, and then you can just create your columns. For every field you can have a new column. Right, quick question. Who all were able to finish that assignment? Quickly. If you don't want to say, you can type in a chat, in the chat window also, private message. Yes, no, did not do, whatever.
I'm done, sir, with that.
No error?
No error for opportunity. I copied the same code.
Okay, great. Okay. Ravi Teja, how about you? I'm getting some error. Okay. How about Sambit?
I have done it.
No error?
Yeah.
Oh, great. All right. So, that's good. Maybe, Ravi Teja, what you can do
I've
is,
uploaded. Yeah, I've uploaded that code in our shade drive.
good, nice thing. Name, type, industry, sorry, name. What are the fields for opportunity? These are different, right? Name, state name, amount, close, date,
Expected
and
revenue.
expected revenue. All right. The page is ready. Have a look onto it. Got it?
Sir, how do we go to a certain record?
How do you go to
A certain opportunity. American Express.
click on this? Okay, so we'll talk about that. After some time we'll talk about that. How do you actually get into one of these opportunities? At this point of time, this is not a link. This is just a read-only field, right? So you cannot click on this. So to get into that opportunity or to get into one particular record, then you'll have to convert this column into a link, so that you can click on that and then go into that link. We'll talk about that part. So we are okay on this part, right? The standard list controller. Then there are a few other things on the standard list controller which I want to discuss. So creating a normal page is fine, and we are also able to display the data. So that's good. Now the problem with the standard list controller, as I told you, that first challenge with the standard list controller is that it displays you all the records of that object, like in case of an opportunity. It shows me all the records of the opportunity object. However, if there are more than 20 records in the object, it will display only 20. So if you count these, you will see these are only 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 20. Okay. So it can display only 20 records on a page. What about the other records? So if it's displaying 20 on this page, then what happens to the other records? 20 on a page. Okay, so how do I get into the other set of records? If you see here, it starts from A and it goes till P, which means there are still some records which are not being displayed here. All right. So for that, if you want to see the next set of 20 records, you can use an action which is specifically meant for standard list controller, which is called next. Okay. So action, where can we use the action? With a command button. So let me go ahead and create a command button here. Apex page. Okay, because it's a command button, it should always appear within the form tags. So where would I put the form tags? I should put it at the start of code. And the end of the code. Okay, so now I have the next button here, right? This next button will take me to the next set of records. See, the moment you click on that, it shows you the list of opportunities, the next set of 20 records. Clear? And once I'm on this page, how do I go to the first page?
Back.
So there should be another action. It's not called back, it's called previous. So for that, again, I need to create a button here which should take me to the previous page. Value can be anything, whatever you want to put, call it go back or whatever. Action name should be previous. And this next and previous is only applicable in case you are using a standard list controller. This will not work with a standard controller. Why? Because in standard controller there is no such concept. We are just displaying one record on a page, right? So now I have a next and go back. So I click on next, takes me to the next. Go back, takes me to the previous page. Alright. There are two more actions. Similar actions for pagination. One is first, one is last. So if you have multiple pages, in this case we just have two pages, but in case we have multiple pages and we want to jump to the first page, like you have any anywhere in Google search engine and all the other places, you will find that there is a next button, and then there is a last page button, and there is a first page button. So that way you can always jump straight away to the first page or to the last page as you require. So to do that, it's pretty simple. What do we do here is
We can also do something like Ajax, right, where we can refresh on render the remaining things on the page.
yes, that's something which can be done. Go to last page. So this is applicable only if you have multiple pages. Define action, say last.
Sir, how do we remember all these next, previous, last? Are they standard, or else in like Eclipse you don't get it over here? Some support, help?
I mean, these are 4 only, right? So it's not something very difficult for you to remember.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand. But
So I mean,
for command button.
Yeah, so here you don't have too many of them, and we have a reference library of all these components, attributes and stuff like that. So you can always refer to the reference library, so where all the components and all their attributes are mentioned. So you'll have the actions also listed there and stuff like this. Okay, so you can always refer to that. Okay, so now I have these pages available. Next, go back, go to last page, go to first page, everything is there. Go to last page, will take you to the last page, go to the first page, will straight away take you to the first page. That's how it is. Alright. Okay. Now we have created a standard list controller page. We have done the pagination on the standard list controller. That's fine. Now the next thing that we are gonna get into is creating an editable column. The column that we have, if I want to edit, let's say this amount column, okay, you want the end user to see and quickly edit the amounts here on this page itself, quickly check and edit if required. So in that case, how do we do that? So we have two options of doing that. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So as I told you, there are two ways of doing that. First way is right now this is a read-only field. Okay, a column by default is a read-only field. Read-only means it cannot be edited. So we can convert it into an input field. Remember last session when we were creating the form, we used a component called input field. Okay. So now I want you to understand this concept, how we are making this as input field. I am just copying this. I'll create another page, editable list of opportunities, and I'll put these things there. Okay, now amount is the field which I want to convert into input field. So you have to do a small change here. The code that you've written, this is a single line of code for a column, right? But inside this column, what I want to do, I want to put an input field. So there's a simple logic of doing that. Open the column component, close the column component, because I want to put another component into this. So that is the reason why I'll have to open it and close it. Okay. Inside this you put the input field component. Simple. And use the value attribute of the input field. Same thing, there is no change, but the way we have written it changes. It goes, column is required because for a table, column is something which is required. You cannot put any data into the table without a column. So column I required. Inside the column you put your other component, which is an input field. Okay. See, now it has become an input field. So if you can edit the records on the go, so you can just quickly check 60,000, you want to feel that it's 62,000, you just make it 62,000. Then you see 75,000, you want to make it 73,000, you can quickly make it. Alright. So this is how it works.
Saving it.
The same save button. The save and quick save actions that we talked about, those are also applicable here. Okay, so after you have made changes on all the records that you want to make, the actions save and quick save that we discussed the other day, those are available in this one also. Correct? Okay, so this is one way of making an editable field. Now, a small thing that you notice here is the label of the field is gone. Do you see the label? No, right? It was there, but the moment I converted it into input field, the label by default is gone. So you now, for in this case, you will need to put label from your side. So go to the apex column component which you have started, go to that and there's something called header value and call it amount. See? Alright. So this is one way of making an editable field. Now the problem with this field is that it does not look that nice and clean and neat stuff. If you look into it, the formatting is all gone and the numbers appear in the input field type, which you might not like. Okay, sometimes you just want that the data should be visible like this. Okay, and the end user can double click on some record and quickly edit it as per the requirement. So in case we want to do that, then we should take another approach, which is using inline edit support. So there is a component called inline edit support. Inline edit support is a component which it will enable the functionality wherein your data will be displayed as a read-only record or read-only data. You can double click on that, whatever field you want to edit, you can simply double click on that field and you can edit that. As simple as that. So how do we do inline edit? It's pretty simple. Open it. First of all, let me create another page for this. Microphones on mute, please, if possible. How come I'm getting the microphone noise? Okay. So I'll use the same code, but this time I'm going to use this other approach using inline edit. So I don't need this thing. I will display the data in a simple format, fx column the way it was being displayed earlier, the same way. Code dot name, stage name, amount was there, right? All right. Okay, so we have got the object and we have got the list of records and everything. Now, only thing that we need to do is enable the inline edit support component here. So you just need to go and create one more component which is called FX inline edit support. That's it. Inside that page block table, just go and create this one more component, inline edit support. Now the data is being displayed as a read-only data. You can double click on any field and it becomes editable. Sorry. Closed it. Whatever data you want to edit, that is editable now. You can double click on any field. You don't have to create the field as input field. Creating it as an input field is not very good option in terms of the look and feel, and in terms of the end user viewing the data. Again, it is not very convenient for the end user to look into the data. In this case, it can just display your data as read only, and you can double click on any record to edit that. Is it fine? Please let me know if anyone has a question here. Inline edit support. Okay. There's one more thing which we are going to do here. Now you see, inline edit support is where usually inline edit support is where we usually put it inside the table. So now what happens with this is, if I put it inside the table, all the columns inside the table have this inline edit support activated. Okay. However, sometimes you may have a different requirement. You might want to enable the inline edit support only for a particular field, let's say only for amount. You don't want the end user to double click on the stage and edit or edit the name. You just want them to have an option of inline edit for one single field. Okay. So in that case, I'll create one more page. I'm just copying the same code. The reason why I'm creating different pages is I want you guys to have different codes for different pages and stuff, so that you don't get confused. What did we delete or something like that? So now I just want inline edit support to be enabled for one single. We want this thing to be enabled for one single record, right? Sorry, one single field. So in this case, you have to bring in the inline edit support component inside the column. So first of all, you start the column component and the column component. First of all, you start the column component and then the column component. Inside the column component, you start the output field component. Okay. So output field component you start and then you close the output field component. put a value inside this. It's going to be amount, right? Inside this output field component, you put the inline edit support. Now you are restricting your inline edit support to this particular field. Got it? Earlier it was inside that page block table, so it was affecting all the fields in the table. Now it is inside this output field, so it's going to affect only this output field, nothing else. So only this field gets affected. I mean, the inline edit support is applicable only on this amount field. You try doing it for the name field now, it would not work. And the same thing which has happened is this header has disappeared. So let's bring the header back. Let's go to the column and put an attribute called header value and give it a name, amount. Okay. Got it? So we have V10, which was the second example where we use the inline edit for all the fields. So I can call this example 2 and V11, I'm going to call it example 3. Fine, so we have seen different ways of making a list of records editable. Last session we talked about editable records for standard controller where we are displaying single record. But today we are discussing about list of records here. Okay, and you must have noticed one thing, I think, that we are not required to put any ID here. So standard list controller pages are a lot better. They don't ask you for an ID, or you don't have to supply an ID. It always displays all the records from that particular object. Okay. Alright, so that is it. Please let me know if you have any questions or doubts on this. Anyone, any queries? Well, okay.
Should practice.
You are muted, Nikhil. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I should practice this.
Yeah, that's correct. The only thing that you guys need to do is practice and try and understand the concepts, how we are formulating the codes. So all these codes that we write is basically for you people to understand, how the formation of the code is done. And a bit of practice is something which is always required. So that's something that you guys should be doing. In case we do not have any questions.